Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 2nd. This is the Red Sea Roundup. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Deacon Mike Beauvais. Today, as always, we have a great show for you. This morning, we will be talking with Mr. Greg Anderson, the Executive Director of Camp Blessing. Camp Blessing exists to provide help and hope to people of all abilities through Christ-centered camp experiences. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure, and it's wonderful to have you here because I think this is something that I think is so important to talk about, that, you know, there are people that are not able to participate in a lot of the things that we take for granted. And Camp
Correct.
Blessing provides that opportunity for people with mental or physical shortcomings.
Correct, yeah.
And
intellectual or developmental disabilities
Yes.
are the buzzwords, but yeah. So we want to provide a summer camp experience for those individuals that can't go anywhere else.
So tell us a little bit about the origin of Camp Blessing. You've been around 2006?
2006, yeah. So we started in 2006 and spent 11 summers as kind of a nomadic camp. We would go and rent a facility. We'd bring a trailer full of ramps and all sorts of other things to adapt the existing camp to the special needs population. If we needed wheelchair ramps, handrails, all sorts of stuff like that, we would bring that. In 2017 or 16, we purchased some property in Brenham, or just outside of Brenham towards Independence, and we have 158 acres out there. That's kind of our home base facility, and we do about 10 weeks of summer camp every summer, depending on the school system and the calendars, between 9 and 10 weeks, and we offer camp to individuals from age 7 to there is no top end. When they are physically unable to come to camp, then they can't do that. So, but we offer weeks for adults to come and be a kid.
So what was the impetus for starting this?
It actually, there's a summer camp in Missouri called Camp Barnabas that one of our founders had served as as a doctor at this camp in Missouri, and there's a need where there are the special needs community is a highly underserved community. The old statistics, but there were 350,000 individuals with a developmental or cognitive disability within the state of Texas, and there are very, very few camps. If every camp that serves the disabled community filled their beds, there would still be hundreds of thousands of kids that were not served.
So, who originally started Camp Blessing here?
So it was a couple called Chuck and Jody Ferguson, and they again, he was a physician, and they started the camp. And then ran it for about 11, 12 years. I guess they stopped leading it and doing it in about 2015. And then I showed up in 2019 and have been there in Brenham since then.
What made you decide that this was what you wanted to do?
For me, my life, I was one of those kids that I went to church. My parents, I grew up, praise Jesus, I grew up in a Christian home. My parents still love each other, have been married for 50 years, and would go to church, and I loved church, and we did camp, and my life was transformed at camp. I was involved with not only church camp, but I did Young Life, and that combination of life transformation. Hey, take kids out of their normal environment, and give them a chance to encounter Jesus outside of all of the distractions of our world, the cell phones, the internet. We are in a saturated culture, and to get them out of that and say, hey, guess what? You don't have that phone. You don't have a 24-hour news cycle. You don't have all of those things that end up being a squirrel, ADD kind of a thing, and say, hey, we're going to focus on some foundational truths. And one of those is God does not make mistakes. Period. Hard stop. And that's one of the things that camp is kind of founded on. We have kind of two foundational truths. Number one, God does not make mistakes. And number two, the gospel of Jesus Christ is universal. Every single person is created with the ability to understand that they are a broken sinner in need of grace. And that there is a Savior, that there's a God that loved them enough to send his son down for them. And so we do that. And again, God does not make mistakes. Our campers, we say this every week to those that come work and serve at camp. Every single one of our campers is perfectly created by God in his image for a purpose in his kingdom.
I really, really love that, because so often we see shortcomings, but we don't see that person was created for a purpose by God. Even if they don't know what that purpose is, God has a purpose for them.
Exactly. And so this has played itself out. And like I said, is in my life, I grew up and my life was transformed through camp. And I had lots of experiences where I encountered Jesus outside of my normal daily rhythms. And I also have a 21-year-old son that has special needs. And so I live in this world where I love students, and I want them to encounter Jesus. I want everyone to encounter Jesus, right? There's only one way to truly live as God intended us to live, and that's in relationship with him and in relationship with others. And so we want to create an environment where they can come, they can have a community that is pushing them towards the foot of the cross, and create an environment that is incredibly fun and outside of their normal routines.
Now, Camp Blessing by nature is probably going to require more volunteers than your normal summer camp would.
Correct.
Where do you find volunteers to step up and help out?
All over. So the way that we're set up, we have in any given week we can have up to 72 campers that have a disability, and that's anything from high functioning autism spectrum disorder to medically fragile and everything in between. So a lot of camps will say, "Hey, you can't come unless unless you can perform basic self-care. You can toilet yourself, you can bathe yourself, feed yourself, that kind of stuff." And we say, nope. Again, they are perfectly created by God in his image for a purpose in his kingdom. And so we're set up that every single one of our campers has a one-on-one buddy. Then that one-on-one buddy is a high school student that is coming to serve. That they actually pay to come serve for a week. And so we say the term volunteer, it's actually they pay, and that helps us offset the cost so that we're not passing that on to the family. We want to keep camp as cost effective as possible. But our ratios are just about 2-to-1. So if we have 72 campers on camp, we will have 160 folks that are there to help pull that off for them. Between high school students that are the one-on-one buddies, we have high school students that actually serve as kind of an extra pair of hands in the cabin. As you can imagine, it takes lots of hands to make sure that it's done safely. We have opportunities for middle school students, so completed 6th grade through 8th grade, to come serve in our dining hall. They help set up and tear down for evening events, because every evening we have a big, massive event. And then we have college students that we hire every summer to come oversee cabins, oversee all of our activities and things like that.
Now, I'm curious, what kind of feedback do you get from the volunteers that help at Camp Blessing?
The feedback is phenomenal. As you can imagine, you take a high school kid and air quotes here, the average typical high school student that says or believes, has been told the world revolves around them, and that's their idea, and that they will lament how hard their life is. And you turn around and you put them in an environment where you take away the distractions of their cell phone. You have positive peer pressure that says, "Hey, it's cool to be vulnerable, and it's cool to be gentle, and it's cool to show compassion and empathy, and to exhibit." And I'll jump back just a second. We have 3 words that are kind of our motto in our logo, and it is love, acceptance, and fun. And we say we're going to show our campers the unconditional love of Jesus, and that's a love that is patient and kind and not self-seeking and keeps no records of wrongs. We're gonna show them or give them unmatched acceptance. We're not trying to fix them because they're not broken. We're trying to care for them and treat them with the honor and dignity that is due them as a son or daughter and fellow image bearer of the Most High King. And then we're going to wrap it all up in unbelievable fun. We're gonna give them. We have all the traditional summer camp activities: zip line, giant swing, horses, all of those things. If we have a camper that is spent their entire life confined to a wheelchair and doesn't really know what their body feels like in space, and they say, "Man, I want to go up on the zip line." Great, we're going to make you fly like an eagle. They want to get up on a horse. Great, we're going to make you a cowboy or a cowgirl. That's what we're going to do, so that we can show them the unconditional love of Jesus. So going back to those volunteers, when we say, "Hey, you're going to come out here and you're going to have this positive peer pressure," you see life transformation. They walk away and go, "Oh, God is so much bigger than I thought He was." And there's so much more to what it looks like to live in community with others. And I have a different perspective. There's a perspective shift of what the kingdom of God here, His kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And there's a different perspective with that when they leave camp.
This is so wonderful and brings up a whole bunch of questions. But the first being, who is responsible for adapting these activities? You must have a whole spectrum of different needs.
Absolutely. So some of that, and then this is it's an ongoing, evolving type of a thing when it comes to the camping industry. There are lots of really cool things that are out there for summer camps. Some of them are, with a little engineering and ingenuity, you can come up with some adaptive solutions to them. Some of them are, they don't exist yet. And you really, it's okay, well, how are we going to make this work? What can we do? And so there are some activities that we haven't been able to, via finances or whatever, haven't been able to say, we're going to do that. And some of those are, 1, financial, 2, because the solution doesn't exist yet. And trying to work with other people, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with other really smart engineering folks and going, why doesn't this exist? Or can we take something else and adapt that to provide a solution for some of these types of things? And so again, it is an evolving process, and a lot of it is just me. A lot of it's me. We have our program director is a licensed OT, and so working with, hey, how do we work with and move and perform these functions in space or in this area?
How fulfilling is it when you manage to have a child do something that the child never thought they would be able to do?
Personally, it's unbelievably fulfilling. But ultimately, we want to have the mindset that this is not about our own egos and our own, this is, look how good of a person I am. We want to point everything back to Jesus. And we want to say, look how good God is. Those things that I thought I was able to do, there are some things that I'm not able to do. And those things that I think I'm not able to do, but through the power of God and some ingenuity of a lot of people, we can make happen. And you see that in the unbridled joy that you see in the campers, and in the volunteers, when in their buddies, when they go, you know what, Jimmy was really scared when we were doing that, and he overcame a lot of fear, or and showed great courage in getting up on that horse, or going down the zip line, or whatever that is. And I think so for us, for me at least, that's the driving impetus is to say, I don't want it to puff me up in any way. I want it to all go back and glorify God.
Now, we had talked earlier about the volunteers, and when I was looking at, the information on Camp Blessing, my first thought was, this is a wonderful experience for these kids coming to the camp, allowing them to participate in something that, they might not thought
right.
was
culture
possible.
And society views them as an inconvenience. They are we're going to cater to the 98, 99% that can, and this 1% gets left out.
But what I thought while you were talking is how great a benefit this is for the volunteers to see that they can minister to others and recognize that their role in life is to serve.
Right.
And I think it's as much a ministry to them as it is to the...
It is as much or more, I think, and that's the interesting part. We every week I have an opportunity, and our volunteers, our high school volunteer, middle school and high school volunteers serve for 1 week at a time. So they're there from a Monday to a Saturday, and so we get a new group every week. And every week I get an opportunity to sit down and I get to say, hey, here's our heart. Here's kind of our DNA as a mission, and what we do and what we're about. And then here's your role in that. From our foundational truth, the gospel of Jesus Christ is universal. Everybody can understand that. And so you as a high school student or a middle school student, you may go, man, I have no idea. I've never been around the special needs community before, so I don't even know how to do that. And we're saying, hey, the gospel is universal. You, as a high school student, are going to be communicating the gospel. And I give a quote, St. Francis of Assisi, preach the gospel at all times. Use words if you have to. And I'm probably butchering that, or using a little bit of
paraphrasing. No problem.
Paraphrase, right? But this idea of hey, you're going to go out and you're going to meet their physical needs of self-care, of whatever it is that they need. You're going to meet their emotional needs. You're going to be their best friend for a week. And it's interesting to see that transformation. You get some big, jockey high school football players that come in and are too cool for school, and they're kind of strutting around with their shoulders back. And you give them about 2 hours with their camper, and you watch them. They're holding hands and they're they're running around, and it's just a sweet image to see the transformation in these high school kids' lives. And it is, if you look at the numbers, we have about 1,200 middle school and high school students every summer, and we'll have about 720 individuals with special needs. So we are as much or more a ministry to middle school and high school students as we are to the special needs community. But we're meeting a need in both of those. We want to create and train future godly leaders in those middle school and high school students, and we want to honor the personhood that image bearer of Christ, and give them the dignity that is due them as a human being, to those campers that can't find this anywhere else.
And I think that is such an important message. The idea that usually when we talk about evangelization, spreading the gospel, people think they have to know something.
Right.
And the message you're sending to these young people is you have to be something. You have to be Christ to others.
Right.
And you get that down, you're spreading the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's such a wonderful way of allowing the young people to share Christ with somebody and realize that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right, exactly. And I think in a lot of ways it also, it for me, it kind of echoes or mirrors this John chapter 9, the blind man, where he has an encounter with Jesus and he walks away absolutely changed. And everyone's going, hey, what happened? Who is this? Who's this guy? And he goes, I don't know. But here's what I do know. I had an encounter with Jesus, and I can see I was blind. I was dead in my sin, and now I'm alive. Now I'm a new man. Now I'm a new woman. And to live in that, and it's not about the fact that if they can sit down and talk about quote vast amounts of scripture, anything like that. It's about, hey, I can be something. I can do. They're not just hearers of the word; they're doers. Where they go out and they work. And we tell them every week, if you lean into this, if you like jump all in, this will be the best, hardest weeks of your life.
How is the response from the families of the children with the disabilities that come to the camp? Because I would imagine the families are thrilled for this opportunity.
They are thrilled for this opportunity. And, some of them may have other children that have had the opportunity to go to camp somewhere else. Some of them maybe not. But for the vast majority of them, and that's another facet of our ministry, is that it's not just it's not just for the camper. We are, and I live this. Having a child with special needs is a 24-hour-a-day job, 7-day a week. It never ends. And every summer we have folks that show up to camp, parents that show up. And they say, well, this is my son or daughter's first night that they're going to spend away from home. And they've never done this before. And they may be homesick, whatever that is. We're going to, but a big part of what we do is to give that respite, to give that rest back to the parents. A lot of these kids, my son included, doesn't sleep great at home. He's not the best sleeper at home. And when we go somewhere else, even less. And I know if baby ain't sleeping, mom and daddy ain't sleeping either, right? So really to go in and say, hey, we're going to give you an opportunity to have some respite. And in that, you can you can work on your marriage. Go on a little retreat with your spouse. Reconnect. Because oftentimes, if you're like me and my wife, it's like a wrestling match. I come home and it tap in, tap out, and just to give them, to give the other person a break and that kind of stuff. And so, hey, go work on your marriage. Go. We have parents that go, I'm just going to go home and clean my house in peace, or just sleep. Or they can go on a vacation with their other kids that maybe have. Depending on the challenges of the camper, they may have, gotten the short end of the stick a lot of times, and been, because of the increased need of the individual with disabilities, they've kind of had to fend for themselves. And so it's an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to invest in that and go on a trip that may be more challenging if they were to take their son or daughter with a disability.
Now, I'm assuming that when the kids first get there, that there's probably a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe the understatement of the year. Yes, a lot of our campers are very routine driven. And that's it's easiest. They know what to expect. And so when they get to camp, mom or dad, they pull through a circle drive that we have, and their son or daughter gets out of the car and they're announced over the loudspeaker, and we have the entire camp lined up in what we call cheer line, and they run through, and they are a rock star when they run through. Man, that's intimidating for a lot of folks. And mom and dad, they're weeping in the car because no one has ever celebrated their son or daughter. And we have 175 new people that they've never met in a new environment that they may have never been to before. And so, yeah, it is pretty intense. And there's a lot of anxiety, but pretty soon that is overwhelmed with the amount of fun and joy and just raucous celebration of them as individuals and the goodness of God.
And I would think having the opportunity of having a camp buddy, one individual that's with you,
correct,
sort of eases that anxiety.
Eases that,
also.
And mom and dad have time to sit down with them, kind of during this check-in process. Sit down with that buddy and with the cabin leaders, and really talk through. Hey, here's what it looks like. Here are the little nuances that make my son or daughter unique. And here's how you care for them, and here's how you love them the same way that I love them. And that's our hope and prayer, is that mom and dad feel safe and secure, saying, hey, my son or daughter is going to be at this place for the next 5 days, and they're going to be loved with the same heart and same mind and same intention as I have as a parent for my own child.
Speaking of you as a parent, I would imagine that you can place yourself in the place of the parents dropping off their child, and some of the trepidation they might have because they've been taking care of that child continuously, as you said, 24/7.
Right.
And now there's going to be this gap.
Absolutely. And I'm a hot mess. I'm crying every week. One, because I get it. I'm in their same position. I have been in their same position. And I say this, you can't pay someone to love your kid. They either love them or they don't. And so we work really, really hard in not only the full-time staff that are on camp, but the college age summer staff that we hire. We work really, really hard to ensure that they have that same heart, that it's not just I'm doing this as a job, I'm doing this to bolster my resume, whatever that is. They're doing it because they love this community. They love Jesus and they love this community, and that makes it harder to find college age summer staff. And so it's a difficult. It's not like your traditional even faith-based summer camp where you can go out and all that. They just need to love Jesus and be kind of cool. No, you've really got to have a heart for the special needs community and be willing to do stuff that's not required if you go to those other places.
Now, how often do you have campers that come back year after year?
Our return rate is 91%.
That's wonderful.
Once our campers come, they want to come back because they have a place where they are fully loved and they are known. We work really, really hard to study our campers, and every human being has a desire to be known. not with the filters that we put on social media or whatever it is that's this polished up version of who we are, but to truly be known. And so we, as an earthly organization, can't know those campers the same way that God knows them, but we do our best, and we work really, really hard to know them and know so that when they show up to camp, they're known, they're welcome, and they're expected. We know we're not and we work really hard in our dining hall. If they're in a wheelchair, we call them holy rollers. If they are in a wheelchair, when they come into the dining hall, the chair is already pulled out for them because we were expecting them. And here's a place just for you. And so yeah, we work really hard at that.
Now, how do parents find out about Camp Blessing?
We do as much marketing as we can. Website campblessing.org is probably the central place for information on that. And you can find all sorts of videos, images, information on what to bring, what a typical day looks like, what the week looks like. All of those types of things that will be located on our website. That's campblessing.org.
And parents that are interested in having their kids participate in a summer camp. Now, what is the normal season? The
normal season typically runs end of May, so roughly right around Memorial Day, plus or minus, depending on how the calendar falls, to the first week of August.
And so you said every week through that period?
Yes, every week through that period. So we'll have our volunteers, our middle school, high school volunteers show up on Monday, and we have about 28 hours to train them and teach them anything and everything that they need to know about how to love on and care for another human being. And then our campers show up on Tuesday through Saturday.
And what about if someone is interested in volunteering?
So interested in volunteering, they can go to our website as well. And there's information about coming and serving as a volunteer. Again, we have opportunities for middle school students through high school students as well as college students. Our summer camp registration for campers opens next week. It opens next Wednesday. And then November, it's the first Wednesday in November is when our volunteer registration opens. And we take groups. So we have some local churches and things like that will bring an entire youth group. And that's a short-term missions trip for them, where they say, hey, we're not going to go internationally, nothing against those. But this is a short-term domestic missions trip that they can go on, where they serve and they can really make an impact, not only on other human beings, but they can also have an impact on their own lives individually.
And I think just listening to you is such a wonderful reminder that the opportunity to serve in mission,
yes,
is everywhere. And so often we think, and we were just celebrating Saint Therese of Lisieux in the church, and she always wanted to go on mission, mm-hmm. and realized her health was not going to allow her to do this, and she realized that she can do this right here,
wherever she's at. Exactly. Yes. Right.
And so this is a wonderful reminder to all of us that, if we want to serve, God provides the opportunities. Yes. We don't need to go anywhere.
Yeah. You don't have to go to another country. You don't have to, you can go, it's an hour and 15 minutes, or excuse me, not even, sorry, I'm thinking from Houston. It's 45 minutes from the Bryan College Station area. And so you don't have to go far.
Now, you're basically out there in the middle of nowhere. And you said you have 158 acres?
158 acres, yes, sir.
What do your facilities look like?
Our facilities, we have about 6 cabins that are fully adapted, ready to go, with roll-in showers, the whole 9 yards. A large dining hall, 2 meeting facilities, a big pavilion, swimming pool, zip line, giant swing, horses, a large lake with canoes, kayaks, aqua cycles, big water trikes, all kinds of fun stuff.
And what does the team do when you're not having?
So when we're not in summer camp, we operate as a retreat center. So if there are local church groups or other nonprofit faith-based organizations that will come out and use our facility as a retreat facility. So we operate as a retreat facility for 9 months, 8.5 months out of the year, and there's a team that is running the retreat side of it. But we are already actively out recruiting, visiting schools and churches and all sorts of other organizations to try to recruit summer staff, college-age summer staff, middle school and high school students for summer camp that starts end of May next year. Or excuse me, I think our first week is June 3rd this next year.
Now, the important question, I'm assuming that you wouldn't turn down donations if someone
Absolutely,
would like to support you.
We do charge for summer camp, but what we charge is about 2/3 of what it actually costs. And so there is a great need. We rely on the generosity of lots and lots of people to help make camp a reality. And so we spend, that's a large amount of my time is spent going out, generating funds and how do we support this ministry, and the great kingdom work that it is or that God is doing through this ministry. How do we support that? And so, yes, we do need donations and rely on the generosity of people to help make it happen.
And people can donate on the website?
You can donate on the website. You can go to campblessing.org, and there's a little, should be a button that pops up to donate. You can sign up to receive our newsletter and find out more information about it. But yeah, all of that can be accessed off of our website, or you can follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook. We're very active on both of those, trying to get our message out and show the amazing things that happen at camp.
Now, we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted you to reach out to parents that might be hesitant to send their child to a camp like this. What would you say to them?
I would say I understand your hesitancy. I understand the anxiety that comes with trusting your one of your most precious possessions, your son or daughter that can't fight or advocate for themselves. I understand the trepidation in doing that. But I would say allow your son or daughter the opportunity to experience something that they cannot get anywhere else. You can try enrichment. You can try other things around home. There is nothing like the summer camp experience. And so give us a try, and I will promise you that your child, your son or daughter, will come back more empowered, more joyful, more connected to other people, and a better person. Not because of us, but because of Jesus. And I have 2 other kids, and I can tell you, when somebody else tells my kids the same thing that I've been teaching them, it comes across different. It hits different with them. And so the same thing happens for your son or daughter with a disability. Send them to camp. Let somebody else love them, encourage them, support them, and give them value and worth and dignity, and then let the result show for itself. And enjoy some respite time in the midst of that, knowing that they're loved and cared for like they're your very own.
And I think that parents, especially with the children that have a disability, always worry about how will I get them to know Jesus. And
Right.
I think one of the best things to do is to introduce them to Jesus in the way that your camp does.
Correct. Yes. And yeah, let them experience other people being the hands and feet of Jesus with them and showing them and communicating with them overtly and covertly what it looks like to follow Jesus.
And I also think that, one of the greatest gifts of charity that we can provide is to allow others to serve us.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
especially these young people that now have the opportunity to be Jesus to somebody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to thank you very much for being on the show. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you for having me and giving us a platform to communicate what we do and who we are. And just, thank you so much for this opportunity.
And everyone out there listening, especially if you have a child with a disability, check out Camp Blessing. Allow your child the opportunity to meet Jesus in a whole new way. I want to remind everybody this was just part 1. We have part 2 coming up after the break. Do not turn away. We will be right back. We'll see you on the other side.